Green Supply Chain Insights, hosted by Finboot's CEO, Juan Miguel Perez.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Green Supply Chain Insights. I'm Juan, and once again, we've had to make an emergency rewrite for this episode. It was originally going to focus on global climate diplomacy, especially in the run-up to COP30 in Brazil. But with the new cycle moving at full speed, this week's announcement from the European Commission forced a change of plans. This week, the European Commission finally published its long-awaited proposal to amend the EU Deforestation Regulation, EUDR. I say long-awaited. It's true that it's only been a few weeks since the first public announcement with the intent to delay it, but it's been very intense for everyone affected by the regulation. The good news is that for what really feels like a first in 2025 when it comes to climate policy, we have some certainty and stability. There will be no EUDR delay for large or medium-sized companies. December 30th deadline remains set. After weeks of confusion, speculation, this proposal is giving the market something it has been missing for far too long, which is regulatory clarity. Well, or kind of regulatory clarity, as there are some changes being proposed. So today, let's unpack what the proposal says, what those changes and how they affect the business and stakeholders, and also what stays the same. And of course, then, what all of this can mean for your compliance strategy. First, let's look at the EUDR proposal, what changes and what doesn't. So, on the 21st of October, the Commission published amendments to EUDR. The aim is to reduce administrative burden and improve scalability without undermining the regulation's core goal, to keep deforestation-linked products outside of the EU market. Here's what's in it. Timelines and scope. There's no delay for large and medium-sized companies. Their obligations still begin on December 30th, 2025. Micro and small enterprises will gain an extra 6 months. They'll apply the regulation from December 30th, 2026, as opposed to the current timeline, which was June 2026. There's also a 6-month adaptation period for large and medium enterprises. Although the compliance date will start on December 2025, competent authorities, i.e. member states, will not impose penalties or initiate enforcement actions during the first 6 months, so until June 30, 2026. This adaptation window allows companies and authorities to adjust to the new digital systems, the reporting formats, and the process before full enforcement begins. And frankly, this was something that was necessary after all of that recent noise. There's also some new definitions and categories in the regulation. This proposal introduces 2 new terms that change how obligations are distributed in the value chain. The first one, downstream operators. These are companies that make or export products using already verified materials. They will no longer have to submit separate due diligence statements, only maintain the traceability through the reference numbers. The other concept is micro and small primary operators. These are small producers in low-risk countries who grow, harvest, or raise the relevant commodities themselves. They are now exempt from full due diligence submissions and will instead file a one-time simplified declaration with basic data, geolocation, activity type, land closed, and such. And this is expected to cover from 70 to 75% of EU-based operators, right? So you can already see kind of who we are targeting with this simplification. This alone could reduce the number of transactions through the traces-based system by millions per year, freeing capacity for a system that, by the Commission's own admission, has some serious limitations. Then there's some process simplifications linked to those two new categories. One is the reduced frequency of due diligence submissions. Again, operators can now issue annual statements instead of per shipment or per batch. They still need to verify all batches are deforestation-free if they truly want to minimize risks of non-compliance. Downstream simplification, there's also implications for these traders and downstream operators who will still need to register in the EUDR system, but they are no longer required to conduct full due diligence or file statements themselves. They must, however, maintain those records, pass along the reference numbers, and ensure the traceability. And once more, they will need to verify the data they are receiving themselves to guarantee that the products are indeed deforestation-free. All of this signals a pragmatic approach that, while it may be open for some loopholes, and we'll see as that implementation window rolls out, it at least this time seems the Commission has listened to the technical feedback and has found a way to reduce friction without gutting the regulation. So, what does this mean for companies and stakeholders that are part of the EUDR value chain? Well, if you're already implementing your EUDR system, good news, you're on the right track. These adjustments are minor, mostly technical, and if you chose a flexible IT platform, this is an update that should take days and not months. Now, if you haven't yet chosen a platform, the message is very simple. You should move fast. You should choose a technology partner who can deploy and onboard you within 60 days, as the window is closing quickly. Also, remember, this proposal still needs co-legislator approval, meaning both Parliament and Council must sign off before it becomes law. Given the political consensus around maintaining the 2025 start date, approval is likely to happen, but it will happen very close to the compliance deadline. So you'll need to take this into consideration when you decide how to plan for those changes to the system. So while it looks like a win for regulatory stability, the final word, again, will come from these two bodies, and we're likely to see that outcome coming from Parliament floor in a month or two. Now, let's go from EUDR to COP30 and kind of have that broader conversation of why forests still matter. Let's zoom out for a moment, look at that global landscape, as in a few weeks from now, world leaders will be gathering in Belém, Brazil for COP30, right in the heart of the Amazon, which is the planet's largest carbon sink and the epicenter of the deforestation debate. If the EU wants credibility on climate and nature, sticking to the deforestation law is the bare minimum. Now, beyond that, a successful COP30 outcome in matters of deforestation would also include binding commitments to halt deforestation and land use conversion globally, not just in the EU, financial mechanisms so that we can support forest nations while ensuring accountability, and a clear bridge between global trade rules and forest protection measures like the EUDR. Beyond deforestation, we also hope to see some positive climate outcomes out of COP30. One would be a credible plan for capital allocation and a capital allocation mechanism with accountability for the transition finance. This is something that CBAM was originally designed to support, again, kind of channeling those carbon tariff revenues into climate actions. So we should see how this can scale to a global, to the global stage, if you will. Another thing we expect to see is more coherence between trade, industrial, and climate policies to give the possibility so that global supply chains can back the long-term economic benefits of decarbonization instead of continuing to chase the short-term gains and creating higher climate risk in the near future. Unfortunately, geopolitical tensions and a continued pushback from trading partners like the US make all of this far from certain. For now, the EU's decision to keep the original timeline, or somewhat keep the original timeline for EUDR, sends an important message in a very tumultuous year. Climate action must stay the course even when politics wavers. So a few takeaways from today. The EUDR remains on track for large and medium enterprises to comply from December 30th, 2025, with some technical simplifications and a 6-month adaptation window. Micro and small operators have until December 2026. There's new categories for downstream operators and micro, small, primary operators. They will have a simplified process to reduce reporting load. And of course, this law still needs to pass to Parliament and Council for approval, but the direction is clear. We're seeing less uncertainty and fewer excuses. If you haven't begun implementation, now is definitely the time to act. Thank you for tuning into this episode of Green Supply Chain Insights. We will continue to follow how co-legislators handle this proposal and what that means for your compliance strategy in the event that there's some minor changes to the text. If you want to read the full text for the amendment, it's available on the European Commission's website, and we've linked it in the comments. We will also be watching closely the developments in COP30 so that we can brief you on that as well. And remember, as usual, you can find all episodes along with the LinkedIn articles on my profile, on Finboot's YouTube channel, on Spotify, under the Green Supply Chain Loop podcast, or directly at finboot.com/insights. See you next month.